in a world where in 2021 people still think the most effective way to understand something is to randomly bombard someone with questions prior to investigation or any logical deduction whatsoever. Welcome to Clown World. So I'm going to answer basic flat earth questions. There's someone in my comments spamming me with the questions. I don't have time to go back and forth and answer every Flat Earth 101 day one question all day on Facebook when you could easily research this stuff if you actually wanted to know the truth. It's actually pretty frustrating. But anyway, so the first question that this person is asking is, so are all the other planets flat? It's not even logical that it could be flat. The only thing that's illogical is to say that the Earth is a spinning cartoon ball in a vacuum where water bends for the first time in the history of mankind, adhering to the outside of a sphere as it spins and revolves around the sun that shoots through space 500,000 miles per hour, while the galaxy shoots 1.3 million miles per hour, and every single star for all recorded history resets over top of the Earth. Is the Earth... Well, what about the other planets, right? That's the question. Well, are the other planets flat? I actually answered the question, but that's why I'm pretty, aggravated, because you asked the question again, right? So I need you to listen. No one thinks that all the other planets are flat, okay? For one, there isn't other planets. When you say other planet, you are presupposing the Earth is in fact a planet, which is the very thing we are discussing, right? That's the question. Is the Earth a spherical planet? That's called a begging the question fallacy. Just reasserting that something's true isn't real. You'll be alright as I take away your little globe Earth religion that you were told about when you were 5 and you were given cartoons. This doesn't faze me at all. I'm literally not even fazed by it. So anyway, the word planet, instead of typing, listen, okay? The word planet, the etymology for planet, listen. The etymology for planet is wanderer, okay? It's a wandering star. We document them all the time. I document them all the time. You can zoom in on them. They're pulsating orbs of light. They're not static, meaning still. You cannot in any way prove they're solid, terra firma, or spherical, because you see the same thing every single day for all recorded history, a pulsating orb of light. Now, even if there were spheres in the sky, which there's literally no evidence for that. There's literally none that exists in the history of mankind. If they were spheres in the sky, that still wouldn't make the Earth a ball. That's like walking up to someone's house and saying, look, there's a light bulb on the ceiling. That means that the floor is a light bulb. That's like walking in a bar, walking up to a pool table, grabbing a pool ball and saying, look, the pool ball is a sphere. That means the pool table is also a sphere, okay? The Earth is provably not curving, which means it's flat. They said it's a certain size, right? So the radius value is the distance from the center to the edge of a circle or a sphere, right? Listen, please. They said that the Earth has a radius value of 3,959 miles. That means you have to see the curvature of the Earth at no further than 1.225 times the square root of the observer's height in feet. Okay, it has to curve at a certain rate. You can Google it yourself. Earth curve calculator. This is not flat earthers math. This is the globe Earth's models math, okay? Google it. Earth curve calculator. I showed you a picture. We have mountains seen from 255 miles away. Listen. 255 miles away, and according to the globe Earth math, the top of the mountain in the back should have been blocked by 1 mile of Earth curvature. An entire mile of Earth curvature should have been blocking the top of the mountain, yet you could see the top of the mountain with the entire mile of Earth curvature missing. You can see the shoreline leading up to the mountain range. It's literally impossible. We have falsified the radius. It does not curve at the rate they said it did objectively. This is why it is censored by the government. This is why you ask questions like, oh, are we a disk in another solar system planet with other spherical planets? Because there's something called the Flat Earth Society, where everything they say is wrong and stupid and not one flat earther thinks any of it. It's called misinformation. So they admitted in Congress they censor flat earth, yet they prop up Flat Earth Society, which is not really flat earth. It's all misinformation. That should automatically raise a red flag if you're honest. What's on the other side? What's the other side? The deepest hole ever dug is 7.8 miles. It's called the borehole in Russia. No one can dig deeper than that, conveniently enough. It's very similar to the distance of the deepest location in the ocean, called the Mariana Trench. No one's ever dug deeper than 8 miles. It's called the borehole in Russia. Now, whenever the globe Earth had predictions based on the supposed layers of this globe Earth, they were proven inaccurate the entire way down the entire 8 miles. They couldn't even get the top 8 miles correct with predictions, much less could they ever adequately predict
4,000 miles to a core that doesn't exist, that they still can't explain how it somehow creates a magnetic field because of the Curry point, and it's literally impossible according to Stanford and Harvard and Yale and Princeton. They literally can't explain the magnetic field in 2021 on a globe Earth. Now, would you fall off the edge? These are like elementary first grade questions, and I'm being honest with you, right? You need to listen. You have been engineered to treat us as if we're stupid. But you should be honest. You know nothing about the conversation. You haven't diligently researched it. You've never measured it. You've never made a long-distance observation, and you know nothing about it. So when you ask these stupid questions like, can you fall off the flat Earth? That is called a straw man fallacy, right? Because no one thinks that. So can you fall off the edge of a lake? Can you fall off the edge of a shore? Of course not. There's a shoreline, right? You can't fall off the edge of a pond. There's a shoreline. The water's contained. There's something called this. You need to just listen, though. Right? Because this is so much information that you're going to have to learn for you to even get close to understanding the conversation. Stop trying to pretend you're going to make flat earthers look dumb, because you look dumb when you do that. You ask questions like, so what is up with the other planets? If you knew what flat earth really said, you know that that's a very dumb question. If you say stuff like, can you fall off the edge? You would know that's a very dumb question. There's something called the 60th south latitude, effectively a circle around you. It was signed in the Antarctic Treaty that it is illegal for you to privately and freely explore past this region. China, Russia, the United States have all signed it. It's the longest lasting peace treaty in modern history, okay? So all these geopolitical adversaries and enemies have all signed a treaty that says it's illegal for you to go explore past that area. So we cannot make claims what's past there because you can't go there to verify it. It's literally impossible and illegal, okay? The one thing that would prove the Earth's a ball is, for one, measuring the curvature of the Earth. Never been done. In fact, the opposite's been done. Every measurement of the Earth ever assumes a flat Earth, and we have measurements way too far to be on a globe Earth, including lasers that were shot without getting hit by the curvature. You need to listen. If you can come up with a question you think that I can't answer, that doesn't make the Earth a ball. We falsified the globe Earth. It is not curving at a rate consistent with the radius value of 3,959 miles. This is why we are heavily censored, and I've been censored on every major platform, and even PayPal and Venmo, because they forcibly censored the real flat Earth by telling you the lies. So you should listen very carefully. We know that the Earth is the bottom of everything, okay? The basement, effectively, in layman terms. It's geocentric. That means the center of everything. It's stationary, of course, meaning not moving. It's a geocentric stationary plane. We have mountains, we have valleys, but it's a topographical plane. The sky resets like a perfect clock over top of us for all recorded history. It all goes around Polaris, the North Pole star, directly over the center of the surface of the Earth, which is the North Pole, and it resets perfectly for all recorded history for thousands of years, doing the exact same thing. Literally impossible on a ball Earth spinning, revolving around the sun, shooting through space. This is why they said that the lights are actually thousands of light years away. Not because they went and measured something thousands of light years away, because they mathematically had to construct something consistent with the model, and it necessitated they be that far away because the stars don't change like they would have to if you had all these different vectors going on. It's called parallax, okay? So you need to understand the true origins of this religion. And it is a religion, it's a belief system built upon the doctrine of men with no empirical evidence. The Big Bang Theory was literally proposed by a Catholic priest, a Jesuit priest, proposed the Big Bang Theory. First time, the perfect shape's a sphere. A metaphysical, ontological premise, philosophical. The perfect shape's a sphere, so the Earth must therefore, by deduction, be a sphere. Let's try to figure out a way to mathematically prove that it could be a sphere. That's literally where it started. It's literally a religion. We were all shown cartoons of it, and they told you there's no more land on the Earth, and there's nothing significant about you. You're on a tiny speck of dust in an ever-expanding universe where everything came from nothing, right? And the truth is that they have put us in a little circle, like a playpen. And they said, you're not allowed to go outside of there, you stupid little peasants. And there are people that are the peasants running around attacking the other people, trying to wake them up and free them. It's insanity. You should research it. So 1945, we brought Nazis over here in Operation Paperclip, okay? One of the Nazis we brought over here was Werner van Braun, because the W is like a V, it's German, right? Okay, Werner van Braun was an SS officer of the Nazi regime. He was brought over here to help us get to the moon via space exploration, right? The Space Exploration Department he was put in charge of. In 1945, Operation Paperclip. It was called this because they put paperclips on certain people's files so they would know who to grab and pull over here out of the Nazi regime. Operation Paperclip, 1945. In 1946, the government started something called Operation High Jump. This is where they went and explored the Antarctic region with Admiral Byrd, a well-decorated admiral for the U.S. military. They went and explored the Antarctic region. He came back on nationally televised interview in 1954 and said, "It is astonishing to me that there is land as big as the continental U.S. on the other side of Antarctica that remains unexplored with tons of resources." He then died in 1957. in perfect shape, heart complication. 3 years later, he died in 1957. In 1958, NASA was founded, which means to deceive in Hebrew and has a snake tongue going through it. In 1959, they signed the Antarctic Treaty, which said that it was illegal to privately explore that region that they had just explored in Operation High Jump. In 1961, JFK then came out and told the world America is going to be the first country to land on the moon. In 1962, they then started to shoot high-altitude missiles in something called Operation Fishbowl, which was part of a bigger operation called Operation Dominique, which translates to of the Lord. So literally meaning Operation Fishbowl of the Lord. The U.S. military shot high-altitude missiles up trying to penetrate the firmament and container. There's hundreds of documents explaining that there's a firmament and that there is in fact approximation method to determine the brightness of the firmament that was proven accurate. There are U.S. military documents that have been declassified, but it wasn't on CNN or TikTok, so you've never heard of it. That is how they've effectively brainwashed the public with cartoons since they were 5. So then they shot these up in 62, 1 year after JFK said we were going to go to the moon. Then JFK got assassinated. Then, in 1968, a movie came out called Space Odyssey about a moon landing, and it was the most famous movie at the time. It won Film of the Year. The year before we went, one of the astronauts that was supposed to be in the crew that went said, "We will never go to the moon. We can't even get to low Earth orbit. We can't even communicate in the same building with one another. It's impossible we go to the moon by 1969. He then went and hung a lemon on the module that was supposed to go. Right after this guy mysteriously exploded and died in a routine checking of wires on NASA's facilities. Then in 69, we miraculously were able to go after not being able to go to low Earth orbit in 1968. And then they called the president from a landline 238,000 miles away with no delay. Yet they say we cannot go back to this day over 50 years later because they quote-unquote destroyed the technology and it's a painful process to build it back, quote-unquote, from Don Pettit, world-renowned astronaut. This is where they supposedly took a real picture of the Earth from space in the Apollo missions when they supposedly went back and forth like 6 times with no problem, but now they still can't do it 50 years later because we can't replicate the technology from the 60s. In 72, we supposedly took a picture of the Earth in these Apollo missions, and that is the only supposed real picture of the Earth from space ever. They didn't go there. So very simply, a summary for you, okay? They brought Nazis over here who were typically famous for brainwashing people with propaganda. They said, hey, we're not going to hang you for your war crimes. We're going to revere you as scientific geniuses. We need you to help us with this propaganda effort. We're going to lie to the U.S. public and tell them that we beat the Soviet Union going to the moon. Then they went to explore the Antarctic region. They discovered that the Antarctic region had something there and what it was. They then came back and said, it's illegal for you to go there. And that treaty still stands intact where it's illegal for you to privately go explore it. They then said, don't worry though, we explore the Earth for you. You're not allowed to explore, but we explored it for you. Here's your little playpen. You stay in your circle, you little slaves. Look at space. Here's NASA. We're going to go to the moon. Something that you could never stand on, never land on, isn't terra firma or solid or spherical. Okay, so there you go. Are there any maps of the flat Earth? Literally every single map that exists in the history of all mankind is a flat Earth. The U.S. military still uses flat Earth maps for navigation and everything else in the world. There's no such thing as a globe Earth map. It's disproportionate. In fact, every single map is flat intrinsically. So the way that they navigate is based on Polaris and the movement of the stars in the sky, which they've done this for thousands of years, which continue to reset in perfectly recorded concentric circles every single year, right? Every map that exists is a flat Earth map. That's the only way you can navigate. Hundreds of declassified documents from the U.S. military saying the Earth's a flat, non-rotating surface. The Earth is flat, that they use flat Earth assumptions for everything that they do, including engineering planes, operating military planes and aircraft, shooting missiles, long-distance ballistics. They always assume a flat, non-rotating surface. Okay, so I get it. It is a lot to take in, but I'm just letting you know you gotta look into this before you think it's crazy. I've been looking into it for 5 years. We have an observation where we're 1 foot off the surface of the Earth, and we look out and zoom in, and the horizon's over 10 miles away. Based on the globe Earth math, geometry, right? If you're 1 foot off this sphere with a radius of 3959, you have to see the curvature at 1.2 miles. So if you're 1 foot off the Earth, you have to see the curvature at 1.2 miles. Yet 1 foot off the Earth, we saw the horizon over 10 miles away. That would require the radius to be 264,000 miles. They claimed it's under 4,000. We falsified the radius. It's not as simple as saying, well, maybe it's just a little bigger. They got it wrong. If the radius is wrong, the entire model's wrong. Day and night cycle uses this number. Gravity supposedly uses this number. Planet orbit trajectories use this number. You can never go to space without this number. You need something called the radius of orbit, requiring the radius of the Earth. Every single story they told told you about going to space is fake intrinsically upon the falsification of the radius. The entire model has been falsified. This is why it's forcibly censored. That's why they will never debate this on national television. Just shut down the stupid flat earther and let an astrophysicist debate them. They'll never do it. Neil deGrasse Tyson was supposed to debate Eric Dubé. It was set up on Joe Rogan's podcast, the #1 podcast in the world for over a decade. And then Neil deGrasse Tyson had to back out. Then they showed you some supposed curvature from Felix Baumgartner at 128,000 feet when he supposedly jumped out and saw the curvature of the Earth. We then sent high-altitude footage, our balloons up, getting footage of the horizon at 120,000 feet, and it was completely flat up there, showing objectively they misled and lied to the entire world with a GoPro who actually sponsored it with Red Bull, saying that this was the curvature of the Earth that you could see from the edge of space, not even close to where they claim space is, which is the Kármán line at 62 miles. And then, of course, that's the international one, and they say the U.S. acknowledges that 50 miles. Right? So when we sent it up and found out that it was flat, they then had to come out with damage control and use Neil deGrasse Tyson to say, a lot of people think that they saw the curvature of the Earth in the Felix Baumgartner jump. That's not true. You would never see the curvature from that height. You'd be 2 millimeters off this beach ball, and up there, that stuff would be freaking flat. So why'd they show the whole world a curve that wasn't actually there until we went and tested it? Why did they tell you that when boats disappear, they're going over the curvature of the Earth, when you can actually go out, see the boat disappear, bring a camera out, zoom in, and you'll actually see it once again? Did I zoom in through the Earth X-ray vision with my P900? No. The boat appears to go away or disappear due to a limit of perspective. You have an angular resolution limit to your eyes. We also have something called the atmosphere, and you can't see infinitely through an atmosphere. Eventually you reach a vanishing point called a horizon, which is where the sky appears to meet the ground. It's horizontal, which is why it's called horizon, because it's horizontal. And this place constantly fluctuates and comes back and forth based on the atmospheric conditions of the day, how clear it is, and how high off the surface of the Earth you are. It's not a real physical place that curves and blocks your view. It's an optical apparent location that constantly moves. So all observations of the history of mankind have showed a flat, non-rotating surface. The Earth is a geocentric stationary plane, a topographical plane with different elevation differences within it. And that is what all evidence shows you. It's the only way it could even exist. You also can't have the gas pressure that you're breathing sitting next to a vacuum. It's literally impossible. It's called the second law of thermodynamics. Entropy will increase, pressure will fill the available space, heat goes to cold, high pressure goes to low pressure. Systems seek spontaneous equilibrium. Second law of thermodynamics. This is a natural law, not a theory that you can change or debate. It's not something that someone came up with. It's something that happens always in nature. It's a naturally occurring phenomenon that always happens. This is called a second law of thermodynamics, a natural law, right? So if you had pressure sitting next to a vacuum, it would instantaneously seek equilibrium filling the vacuum. If you have a soda and you open it, it goes psh, instantaneously equalizing to the lower pressure around it. That's the second law of thermodynamics. You could not have gas pressure of oxygen that you're breathing or any of the gases sitting next to a vacuum. It would instantaneously fill the vacuum. You've been trained to say this word over and over and over. Gravity, 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 gravity. Well, gravity is not actually real. It's a concept. It's a theory that has no evidence. So whenever I drop something, it falls down because it's more dense than the air. If I let go of a helium balloon, it goes up because it's less dense than the surrounding air. It's lighter than the surrounding air. Not because it's gravity proof. Helium balloons do not go up because they're gravity proof. They go up because they're less dense. It's called relative density, right? If you wanted to get real specific, everything's intrinsically electrostatic, but that's unnecessary. There is no scientific evidence for gravity. There is no experiment that's isolated gravity, and it's known for a fact in highest levels of academia that this does not exist. There is no isolation or scientific experiment validating gravity. That's why it's called the theory of relativity, where they say that gravity is the effect of the bending and warping of space-time. Two concepts. Can you bend freedom and love? Of course not. You can't attribute physical properties to conceptual abstractions. This is called a reification fallacy. Doesn't matter. The only evidence ever to even be claimed that the Earth is in fact a ball with gravity is gravity has to exist because the Earth's a ball. Literally, that is the only evidence. If we assume the Earth is a ball, then gravity has to exist because it has to exist for the Earth to possibly be a sphere. It has to pull us down in all directions, omnidirectional, all directions. We have to be pulled down. So gravity has to exist. Yeah, we don't have any evidence for it. We can't prove it. We can't accurately define it. And when we apply it to the sky, it's off by 95% in 2021. They're off by 95%. It's called dark matter and dark energy. They still cannot explain the supposed model, not even mathematically. We have falsified it. The flat Earth can't explain magnetism. It can't explain the cyclical nature of the sky. It can't explain everything else that we see. The globe Earth cannot. Okay, so all scientific empirical evidence shows you this, and we have tested it. We proved that they lied. With cartoons, they lied to you. The same exact schooling system that told you Christopher Columbus discovered the United States when people were already here. The same exact system that lied to you about the Vietnam War and said that they attacked us and they attacked themselves and said that, in fact, they declassified. They had to do that to justify war, but they lied to the American public saying Vietnam attacked us and Gulf of Tonkin. Same ones that lied about 9/11. You shouldn't blindly believe the system. You should go look into it for yourself, and you will find out that most of the people that are lying, it's actually not intentionally. They believe the lie as well, and they propagate it forward. And there's something called compartmentalization, where people are trying to explain something that doesn't exist. So you ask questions like, why would they lie? They get $60 million a day from NASA. They're hiding more land and resources. They told you you're an insignificant speck of dust in the ever-expanding universe where everything came from nothing. Lightning struck primordial soup, and then rocks turned into fish eventually, that then turned into fish with feet, that turned into rodents, that turned into apes, that turned into humans, and there's nothing important about you. Random chaotic happenstance that you even exist over the course of billions of years of everything exploding from nothing. You get perfectly coalesced into spheres that were happen to be, you can somehow live here. So don't worry. Well, the truth is, the Earth is stationary and the center of everything, geocentric, and the sky moves in perfect circles over top of us around the center of the sky, right over the center of the Earth. And that means the Earth had to be created. It had to be placed there. So they're hiding the creator. There's 3 reasons. Also, you can't trust any of your senses. You think you're spinning 1,000 miles per hour, but you don't feel it. You think the Earth is curving, but you see it flat. You think that the sun is sitting still in the sky, but you see it move. You think the sun is 400 times bigger than the moon, but you see it as the same size as the moon. And so you can no longer trust your senses. You do not think that you can adequately tell the difference between truth and fiction. You must turn to authority to get all of your answers that you cannot understand. So they have brainwashed you into a slave state where you always turn to the authority to know what truth is, because you have been told that you cannot figure it out on your own. This is how you have good brainwashing capability of a state. So there's 4 very rudimentary reasons they would lie. Why wouldn't they lie? Knowledge is power. If you're the only one with the knowledge, it's much more powerful. When does the government not lie? Okay, so there are your answers. They're hiding land and resources and money and brainwashing you, and they put you in a little circle and told you can't leave there while they go hang outside of it. Okay, so there's plenty of reasons why they would lie. It doesn't really matter why they lied. The motivation of lying is independent of the fact that they did lie. Okay, and falsification is independent of replacement. We falsified the globe Earth. We don't have to replace every fairy tale they said before it's still real. If you tell me Santa's real, and then I see mommy and daddy bring presents in the house, I don't have to go come up with a new fictitious character from the North Pole or Santa's still real. We falsified your claim that Santa's real. That's all there is to it. Falsification is independent of replacement. So there you go. There are the basics. You can't fall off. You can't fall off of a lake. There's a shore. Antarctica is known to have the highest elevation in the entire world. It is an ice ring effectively around the water. Captain Cook tried to circumnavigate the Earth, and he went for 68,000 miles, and all he saw was an ice shelf the entire time. You're not allowed to go independently verify this, though, so the water is contained, which is convenient because fluid statics is also a natural law. Water finds its level. Water at rest is always level, period. Okay, so water conforms to its container and finds its level. Well, conveniently, it's contained on this flat Earth, and it's level. Of course it is. So how is 70% of a ball level? It's impossible. It defies fluid statics, the second law of thermodynamics. There's no empirical evidence for it, and we see way too far. We see mountains from hundreds of miles away. We see the skyline of Chicago 60 miles over Lake Michigan should have been completely obstructed. We have mountains we can see from 273 miles away. We have mountains we can see from 103 miles away. We have nothing but evidence that falsifies the globe Earth. So if the surface of the Earth is flat all over it, what is it? Do I believe in aliens? Well, for one, what is the etymology of alien or extraterrestrial? Extra land, extra terrain. So if there are other lands that they have hidden where someone lives, technically they would be alien or extraterrestrial. We would be in the inner space. They drew a circle around us, and there would be the outer space. There is no alien coming from outer space where it's a vacuum that couldn't exist, that they're thousands of light years away, and some intergalactic civilization with different races coming to get you from outer space vacuum boogeymen. None of that's real. I don't make claims about whether aliens are real or not. I know they'll probably lie to you about it, and the same guy, Werner von Braun, that was the Nazi brought over here to lie to us about going to the moon, told his secretary that they would fake an alien invasion and also fake things about asteroids. I don't really know. You can look into Project Bluebeam, but it doesn't matter. And by the way, Werner von Braun also put Psalms 19:1 on his tombstone, which says that the firmament shows the handiwork of the Creator. The firmament comes from the Hebrew word rakia, strong as bronze. It was stretched out over top of us to protect us, and we were like grasshopper inhabitants within the tent he stretched over top of us, and it's strong as bronze, like beaten out with bronze, rakia. So why did the guy supposedly took us to space put on his tombstone that you can't go to space because there's a firmament there? Well, he let the truth out on his deathbed. He also wrote a science fiction book in the 50s, and in the science fiction book that the Nazi wrote in the 50s, the main character's title is Elon, and Elon supposedly takes us to Mars. I guess that the prophet of the Nazi was really good at predicting what would happen, right? He wasn't just good at mass murdering millions of people. He was also a prophet that knew that Elon would take us to Mars in 2021 and talk about how he's going to do it. So the world's a stage. Jules Verne wrote a science fiction novel in the late 1800s predicting the moon landing and where the rocket would shoot from, what state, what direction, how it would slingshot around it, and everything else. They take science fiction books and they tell the public that it's true while they know the truth. Powerful people are lying to you, okay? So do not fall for whatever they tell you. You need to look into things for yourself. Don't blindly believe anyone. Go research it for yourself. Go test it for yourself. And if you do this, you will find out that the earth is provably flat. I would have to sit down here and talk for another 3 hours to tell you every flat earth proof. There's something called specular reflections. You cannot have perfect reflections on a surface if it's not flat. It cannot be concave or convex at all. Specular reflections debunk the globe earth. We have local reflections from the sun, showing the sun's a local light source. This is impossible in the globe earth model. The sun has to be so far away we have parallel rays, right? So it's impossible. This debunks the globe earth. We have crepuscular rays, which are divergent rays that converge onto the sun, showing the sun's a local light source. Impossible on a globe earth. They say it's actually parallel. It just looks like that. We see that the sun and the moon are the same size. They say that the sun's actually 400 times bigger than the moon, just coincidentally, exactly 400 times further away also, so that it looks like they're the same size, so we can have total eclipses. Or maybe they're just the same size, bro, and the scriptures are true, and it says that there's a lesser light that rules the night and a greater light that rules the day. Okay, that's all there is to it. We see the same moon for all recorded history, while people claim it's a sphere that spins, but if it spun 1/4 a mile per hour, slower or faster, we'd see the other side of it, so it just perfectly sits there for thousands of years. That's a cool story, bro. None of this has any evidence. It's all fairy tales. What we know for a fact is that water always finds its level. To have pressure, you must have a container, which means the way that you're breathing is the gas pressure on the earth is contained, and we see way too far. The earth's topographical plane. It isn't curving. This is just the way that it is. You can't go deeper than 7.8 miles. You can't go past the 60th south latitude. We need to wake up and then tell them that we demand to know the truth and to be able to freely traverse the earth. That is the next step. Not to try to attack the people that actually researched it, are bold enough to not care that other people get triggered and try to call you dumb or try to attack you because they were told that it's dumb. The people that are strong enough and intelligent enough to actually understand it, research it, test it, and then go speak about it are the people that are fighting for you, whether you understand that or not. And we're used to taking the bullets, but you should maybe jump on the side of that people actually doing what's best for humanity as opposed to trying to attack them. So there you go. It's all a lie. Georgia Guidestones prove it. Yeah, exactly. The Georgia Guidestones wouldn't work unless the Earth was a geocentric stationary plane Earth, right? Because it uses a compass, a clock, and a calendar. It shows Polaris day after day after day for all recorded history that it's been there, and it will always work, showing you where north is, because it doesn't change. For all recorded history, Polaris is in north. That's how you know where north is, so it would be a compass, right? It also shows you where the winter solstice and the summer solstice is. It shows you the time of the year. It's a calendar, because the Earth doesn't move and the sun does the same thing. That has the same cycle. There's a cycle over top of us like a clock that resets every year. This cost almost $1 million to build it, and it would be a complete waste of money if the Earth was a spinning ball. Okay, so that's just the way that it is. And they tell you what they want to do on there, and I think everyone should just wake up, maybe everyone should just wake up and stop getting triggered that we didn't go to the moon in 1969. Stop being surprised or acting surprised the government lied to you. Stop being surprised and acting like China and Russia lying is a big shock to you. The U.S. government has lied about everything. So what you should do is accept truth for what it is, right? It's easier to fool someone than to convince them that they have been fooled. That is not my problem. That is, you just need to look into the evidence and be honest. We see way too far. We falsify the curvature of the Earth. There you go. I mean, I don't know what other basic questions I might have missed, but you should be able to figure them out. You'll ask stuff like, oh, you shouldn't look past the curvature. If the Earth's a ball, it has to curve. If you were intellectually honest about this, you wouldn't get past that. You're like, wait, that's the most efficient way to test if the Earth is in fact a ball with this radius. Geometry, measurements of shapes, sphere, certain size, dimensions, 3,159 radius. You would test that and see if it's curving at that rate, because it has to curve. If a woman's pregnant and she moves her hand across her stomach and then it comes down to the bottom, can she still see her hand? No, because the curve of her stomach physically obstructs her hand. That is what the Earth has to do if it's a ball. This is where the answer lies. Is it really what they said it is? You can go measure the surface of the Earth, and it is objectively, provably not what they said it is. So if your response to that is to not answer it or figure out how it could work or figure out what's going on or go test and see if that claim is true or see exactly if these observations really do exist, if your response is, oh, well, how do eclipses work? What about magnetic fields? What about, if you start asking every random question you can think of, you're being intellectually dishonest. You're diverting away, and you can't handle what the truth is. Right? So if you think you can ask a gotcha question that some flat earther might not answer, that doesn't change the fact we falsified the radius. Okay? We don't know all the answers. The globe Earth knows none of the answers, right? People will say, what about eclipses? Eclipses debunk the globe Earth, and they still use the Chaldeans from Babylonian time, 2500 BC, a geocentric stationary plane Earth civilization. They knew the Earth was flat and stationary and the center of everything, and they used something called the stereocycle from the Chaldeans from 2500 BC to this day at NASA to be able to predict the eclipses. They cannot use the heliocentric model to predict eclipses at all. There's something called the Selenilian eclipse, right? And it's where the sun and the moon are both above the Earth during the lunar eclipse, according to the globe Earth model, the reason you have a lunar eclipse is because the Earth blocks the light from the sun and casts a shadow onto the moon, and that's what actually physically obstructs the sunlight, causing the shadow, thus a lunar eclipse. Yet in the selenian eclipse, a lunar eclipse, the sun and the moon are both above the horizon, above the Earth, a geometric impossibility on the globe Earth. And guess what year they said that they discovered this and recorded it for the first time? 1666. It's not a coincidence they told you that the first time they recorded the eclipse that debunked the model is 1666, 666, right? The same year that gravity was discovered by Isaac Newton, supposedly, in 1666, with a number of 6.67, right? Where we have north and south Arctic circles at 66.6 degrees, while the circumference of the Earth in nautical miles is 21,600, 6 times 6 times 600, while we're on a 66.6 degree tilt with a curvature rate of 0.666 feet per mile squared, shooting around the sun 66,600 miles per hour. Okay, so it's a lie, it's a Luciferian lie, and if you're actually at the highest level of the occulted people that try to control the world and lie to all of us, you have to know these things, or you're not allowed there, okay? So that is why they lied. It's simple. If you wanted to control and brainwash an entire group of people on the earth, what better way than to start by lying to them about the nature of the very place that they live? If you want to brainwash them on the earth, why not lie to them about the earth? Why not tell them there's no more land, it's a finite little sphere, and you have to stay here? Because there's more land and you get to control it. Why would they not lie? Knowledge is power. It's much more powerful if you're the only one with it. So there are the basics for you. You should research it, right? Fly Man's watching, his panties are in a bunch. Dude is a gay one. Alright, I love you guys. I'm going to catch up with you guys later. Battery's about to die. I wanted to answer the basic questions. There you go. I can't go back and forth in comments. And if you watch this video, you'll understand why I can't go back and forth in comments all day. I have hundreds of people that are doing that and sending me messages. So, look at our content. Go find us and listen and learn and study and research. A lot of people on my Facebook will be helpful to you, but for everyone, drop the arrogance, okay? Drop the arrogance. When I first heard about Flat Earth, I thought it was dumb also. Then I humbled myself and researched and tried to prove the Earth was a globe and found out it is far from dumb. And if you're still on that wavelength, even though waves aren't things and don't have links, right? It's just a transverse movement in a medium that has to be there, the antecedent to any type of propagation. But anyway, I digress, right? If you're not even on that wavelength of understanding that it isn't a dumb conversation, you're nowhere close to the truth. You're nowhere close to the truth. So just humble yourself, be honest, seek the truth diligently, and then you will be good to go, right? And people will be more than happy to help you answer your questions. They want you to come over here and know the truth. That's our whole thing. We want everyone to wake up and realize we've been lied to so we can get our power back. But just be respectful. Don't expect to be able to just hurl insults and attack people and that people are just going to love you and be real nice and just keep letting you do it. Because the irony is that, you're projecting your own intellectual insecurity. I go around the United States offering $100 cash to anyone in these major cities that can answer 3 basic questions about the globe Earth correctly, the basic questions about it, and no one ever wins the money. So be honest. You know nothing about it. It's okay. All the flat earthers know everything about it, right? So you should be real here. Just look into it. There's your little beginner's crash course. I love you guys. I'm going to go chill with another flat earther in a little bit, grab something to eat. I may do a computer stream later tonight. My phone's about to die. Peace out. Much love. MasqueradeTour.com, $ What's it gets a cash at, what's it protonmail.com, PayPal. If you want to support the tour. I know I speak fast. I'm sorry. It's just like what I do. So I love you guys. Seek and speak truth unequivocally. The weak find contentment in the consensus of ignorance. So strong people don't care what weak people think. Intelligent people don't care what dumb people think. Informed people don't care what ignorant people think. Stand tall and seek and speak the truth regardless of ostracism or any type of attack or pressure from society. It doesn't matter, right? The weak always do that. So just stand tall for the truth. And actually, whenever they revile you for his name's sake, rejoice, for they did it to all the prophets before you. Peace out.